Good morning. Good morning, everyone. Happy Tuesday. How is everybody? And as you've seen from my thumbnail, awesome. Those are all of the fermented projects that we started off with last week. We started off with making the sourdough bread starter. And then I have my puppies, so they're here with me. Then we got the sourdough bread starter starting from scratch. And then I fermented some different vegetables. I think that was day one whenever I started the sourdough starter from scratch. Day two, making sauerkraut in a crock. Day three, and also I think I started fermenting vegetables on that day. And then day three was fermenting cucumbers. And so this is now all of the different products. I think that's everything that we were fermenting. So last week was a whole week of fermenting. And if you give me 1 second, I want to go get my beautiful babies here. Come here, Lily. Lily and Ryder need their treat. So I will be right back. Okay, we got the babies taken care of. So now we're going to look at some of the different things that we fermented this week. Apparently we need one more treat. Let Mama get you another bag, baby. And I'm real life here, and I have the Maltese. So good morning, everyone. And as you've seen from the thumbnail, yes, that is the fermented products that I now have that I started last week. Last week was a week of fermenting. And I did several different types of fermenting. Starting off with day one, again making pressure. Making the sourdough starter from scratch. Come here, Miss Lily. And here's my babies, Ryder and Lily. Okay, good boy, good girl. So hopefully that will take care of them for a little bit. And as you've seen from my thumbnail, everything has finished. It's now done. And just from my thumbnail that I put on there a little bit ago, you can see how much my sourdough starter has expanded. So this is a very, very active, and this is the one that we made starting from scratch last week. And then what we did each day up to day 5 when I put it in the refrigerator. So I'm going to go ahead and put this in the refrigerator. As you can see, it's been fed. And it's more than doubled its size. It was here when I fed it, and it's more than doubled its size. So I can go ahead and put this in the refrigerator. And then on day 2, we were making sauerkraut in a crock. Now here's the finished product. Look how absolutely beautiful that turned out. And I think on the same day, I started the fermenting vegetables, and this was zucchini, rosemary, onions, and fresh garlic cloves. And this is the finished product. And then I put some black peppercorns. That's the finished product. Hey, what time is it? It is 8:17 a.m. here this morning, and I'm in Ohio. So as you can see, that is product number 3. And then the last day, I was fermenting pickles, cucumbers, and this has cucumbers, onions, fresh garlic, and pickling spice. And this is the finished product. And they all turned out so pretty. So I'm going to wash my hands. And then I'll get a fork and I'll take a little bit of something out of the fermented vegetables just to show you what it looks like. So let me get my hands washed here and we'll get started. So how is everybody today? Happy Tuesday, everyone. Okay. If you want to see, this was project number 1. This was day 1, and this was starting the starter dough from scratch. And then this is 1 week and 1 day later. We started this last Monday. So you can see what a very active starter that is, started from scratch. So on my thumbnail, I think it was only up to about here. So you can see even from a few hours later after I loaded my thumbnail this morning, how much more that has raised. And I'm going to go ahead and put this in the refrigerator because this is still a very young starter. It was just started last Monday. So it's not strong enough to make sourdough bread yet. But tomorrow I will probably go ahead and take some of the sourdough out, the starter out, and make some blueberry waffles. Maybe some Belgian waffles or blueberry waffles. But the starter is not quite strong enough yet to make sourdough bread. So I'm going to be using some of the discard. Hi, good morning everybody coming in. Welcome to my kitchen. Good morning. So I'll show you what I do with the discard, and I want to continue to keep building this up until I feel that it's strong enough, and then I'll make my first sourdough bread. So I just wanted to let you see, if you were following me last week, if you were doing the sourdough starter, this is the finished product. It turned out absolutely amazing, and as you can see, it's very, very active. And I'm going to go ahead and put this in the refrigerator. And that will slow down the fermenting process, and it'll just sit there. And each day what I'm doing is I am going in and taking about 1/4 of a cup out. And I'm adding 1/4 of a cup of my flour back in, and 1/4 of, well, not quite 1/4 of a cup of water, stirring it really good. I let it sit on my counter with my lid just loose, so it will wiggle, so it's not airtight. And then once it doubles, I'm putting it back in the refrigerator. And I'm doing this each day because this is a new starter, sourdough starter, and it's not really strong enough yet for me to make my sourdough bread. So this was continuing from last week. But what an absolutely beautiful starter. Okay, now I'm going to get a fork on day 2. I got out my crock, and this is a 1-gallon crock. and we was making sauerkraut. So that was day 2 of fermenting. So I used this 1 gallon crock, and it came with the weighted stones, the porcelain weighted stones. It came with my pounder that I put down inside the crock, and each layer that I put my cabbage in, I pounded it down. And then after I got it all in there, I put my weights on, pressed them down really good, and then I added water, or my brine, the rest a little bit more brine, which we talked about all on day 2 last week. And then this is the finished product. I took it out of my crock yesterday, 7 days later, and look at that absolutely beautiful sauerkraut. So I'm going to go ahead and get a fork and show you what this looks like. And it tastes absolutely amazing. Good morning, everyone. If you're just coming in, welcome to my kitchen. And what I did was took it out of the crock. Look at that absolutely beautiful sauerkraut. And then I stored it in my refrigerator in little pint jars. And I ended up getting 3 pints of sauerkraut. And oh, it just smells so fresh. And it was so easy to do. All you needed was the cabbage, your iodine-free salt, and water. And I made this in my crock, and then I also showed other things that you could use if you did not have a crock. So again, just look at that absolutely beautiful sauerkraut. I only had 2 small heads of cabbage, and just look at that. It turned out so pretty, and it is absolutely delicious. I'm trying to do this without making a mess, because I will probably make a mess. But I'm hoping you can see how pretty that turned out. And I had those 2 small heads of cabbage, and I ended up with 3 pint jars. Of cabbage. So that was the 3 pints I got using the 2 small heads of cabbage and using the 1 pound crock. And as you can see, it is absolutely beautiful. Okay. Then on day 2, whenever I was making the sauerkraut, I also was making some fermented vegetables. And this has rosemary, zucchini, fresh garlic, and onions. And then I made the brine. So I'll go ahead and show you what that looks like. And I ended up getting 1 pint and it just smells absolutely, positively amazing. You can see the extra brine I have in there. You can smell the rosemary. And everything just looks so pretty. Try and pull something out here without making a mess. And look how pretty those turned out. Absolutely gorgeous. Let's see if I can't get that one tucked back down in there. And this had zucchini, onions, fresh garlic, rosemary, and just a few peppercorns. And you can see I kept the brine, some of the brine out of the container. I added it to my jar, and then I set that in the refrigerator. And that turned out absolutely amazing. Absolutely amazing. My camera's not quite picking up how pretty that is. Hi, good morning. So that was the second one. And you can smell the rose, in this one, you can smell the rosemary. And it smells absolutely delicious. So I can just go in and take a few zucchini out, a little bit of the onions out, and just take a bite. And I have my natural probiotic from fermenting my own vegetables. And that will help to make sure that I keep good, healthy gut. It keeps your good bacteria and bad bacteria balanced. The same way with the sauerkraut. The sauerkraut has a natural probiotic. And if I just go in and take out a little bit of sauerkraut and eat it, I'm also doing the same thing. It's a natural probiotic. And when I'm eating it, it's balancing out my good and my bad bacteria. And I'm keeping a nice, good, healthy gut. And then the last thing that I fermented was the cucumbers with some onions, fresh garlic, and pickling spice. And the cucumbers, of course. And I ended up with 1 pint. And they smell like, almost like a bread and butter pickle, but with a little hint of garlic. And they turned out absolutely beautiful. Absolutely beautiful. I'm hoping you can see that. And again, I kept a little bit of the brine, and I put a little bit of the brine in on top. And they are absolutely beautiful. The closest smell that I could give you as far as smell is it smells close to a bread and butter pickle with just a hint of garlic. From what I use the garlic cloves, fresh garlic cloves and onions. And I ended up with 1 pint. And if you watch my live stream last week, each one I was doing a fermenting. And this I did in a quart jar. And I ended up with a pint. The zucchini and rosemary, garlic, and onions, and peppercorn, I did that in this jar, and I made sure to explain this jar did not have a lid or a seal. It has a lid but no seal, so that way the gases could escape. And then I would occasionally come through, it was on my island, and I would burp it. The same thing with whenever I made the cucumbers in the quart jar. I had my lid on loose, and I just had it laying there, so it was just so air could come out. And again, I'd walk by on my island, and maybe once or twice a day I would burp my quart jar. So with the quart jar, I ended up getting the pint of beautiful cucumbers, which are now fermented pickles. And then the sauerkraut, if you were on my live, watching my live streams, I did the sauerkraut with 2 small heads of cabbage using my 1 gallon fermenting crock. And it has a lid that has little grooves. I'm hoping you can see that. The grooves are cut out. And that's so it can get natural air down into the fermenting crock. And then this one has a nice little rim, like a moat. And once you get everything down in there, you put your cabbage in layers. And then I took my little pounder and I pounded each layer to try and get as much moisture out as I could. Added the next layer and continued until both of my small heads of cabbage were in there. And then it came with the 2 weights. And these are porcelain weights. Hi, good morning. Welcome to my kitchen. It came with the 2 porcelain weights. And then once I had everything packed down in, I placed my weights in on top of my cabbage and pressed down some more. And then added just a little bit more of brine water to make sure that my cabbage was covered, my weights was covered, and then I just put the lid on, and then I added just a little bit of water around this rim in this little moat, and that gave it an airtight seal, and I set this on my counter for 7 days. And with it having that seal, my husband doesn't eat sauerkraut, and you could not even smell sauerkraut fermenting in my kitchen. This was so nicely sealed. So that is a very nice little crock. And then I ended up with 7 pints of absolutely beautiful sauerkraut. I let it ferment for 7 days. I never did anything to it. Just checked to make sure I still had plenty of water around the rim on my crock. And I ended up with 7 beautiful pints of sauerkraut. I took the sauerkraut out yesterday, put it in 5 pints, and then I added just a little bit of the brine water into the jars. And this is ready, and I set this in my refrigerator. So that is some of the products that I did fermenting last week, and they turned out absolutely beautiful. And then again, this beautiful sourdough starter was started from scratch, and I used fresh ground, fresh milled flour. I started off with a white wheat berry and ground it into flour. That's on day 1 last week. And then I added 1/4 cup of water and 1/4 cup of water, stirred it up, and then I covered the pint jar with the coffee filter and a rubber band and a dark cloth and put it into my pantry, and that was day 1. And then each day last week, Monday through Friday, I brought the brand new sourdough starter out, showed you how to feed it, and then put it away, and clear up to day 5 where it was put in the refrigerator. And then yesterday I went in and took out some starter, about 1/4 cup, and then I added 1/4 cup, stirred it up really well, set it on the counter until it started to make bubbles like this. And once it did that, I just closed the lid, but I want it where it's wiggling. I don't want it tight. Set the refrigerator, and then I got it out again this morning, about 4 o'clock this morning, and fed it again, the same thing. And now you can see where the rubber band is. That was where it started, and now it's almost tripled. So I'm going to put this back in my refrigerator and just leave it there because it is a new starter, and I don't want to tighten my lid. I want to leave my lid very loose, even in the refrigerator, and that will slow down the fermenting. It will not go into any more fermenting. And this is a very young starter. So each day I'm going to go in and take a little bit out, maybe 1/4 cup. I'm going to add just a little less than 1/4 cup of water. Stir it up really well. Just set it on my counter with a loose lid until it doubles its size. And I see the bubbles. Then I'll put it back in the refrigerator. And then when this is ready, since it's a new start, it's a baby, we need to get strong enough to make the sourdough. So maybe tomorrow I'll try and make some blueberry waffles with some of the discard, because it's not strong enough yet to make sourdough. So I'm going to go ahead and put this in the refrigerator just like it is. And you can see how active that is. It's very beautiful. Just look at all those bubbles. bubbles, bubbles, bubbles. And that's what you want to see. You want to see all those bubbles. So I'm going to put this away. And then last week, I talked about different things you're going to need to ferment. And the first one that we used was the fermenting. And this is the 1 gallon. And it does come with the weights. The 2 porcelain weights. And it comes with the pounder. This is a very nice little crock. If you have a small family like I have, I just used 2 small heads of cabbage and come out. Now I have 3 pints of sauerkraut in 7 days. Would I recommend this crock for a small family? I absolutely would. Now, if I would have filled it clear up, I would have had a lot more sauerkraut. But my husband does not eat the sauerkraut. So another thing that we use to ferment whenever we fermented the vegetables. And this was the zucchini, the onion, fresh garlic, some rosemary, and some black peppercorns, and the brine that we mixed up. And then here's the jar that we fermented. This is about a ½ gallon, and it does have a lid, but it does not have a seal. And I got everything put in there, and then I added the brine, and then took a gallon Ziploc baggie with some water and put it on top so that would keep all the vegetables down in the jar. So if you don't have a crock, you can do the same thing with your cabbage. Just put it in your layers like I did. Just you'll have to salt it, cut it, salt it, go through all the steps that I was showing you. Then put a layer of cabbage in and pound it down and keep going until you have it all in. And if you save some of your big cabbage leaves, you can lay those on top and then put your brine in to make sure that's all covered. And then put your gallon Ziploc baggie with some water on top just to keep that all down. And just let this sit on your counter and it will do the same thing as a crock. And then you may want to go through and burp it. So you can use a jar like this. And then I also took you through how to use, but ours was a wide mouth, but we used a quart jar to make the fermented pickles. And that was cucumbers, onions, fresh garlic clove, and pickling spice. And we did that in the quart jar. I just put everything in layers, added my brine, and I put a sandwich baggie, Ziploc baggie, with some water to hold everything down. Set it on my counter with a very loose top. You don't want a tight top because those gases have to come up and escape. So I just had my lid laying on there just enough to where it caught, but it would come up and down. And then once, twice a day, I'd walk by and burp it. So you can use a gallon jar. So now I'm going to show you, I want to move you over. And move you down. And now I'm going to show you another type of crock. I did not use this one. So let me make a little bit of room here. Now here is another type of crock, and this one is made in Ohio. It's called Ohio Stoneware, and it's made in Zanesville, Ohio. And I live in Ohio, so this is a 1 gallon crock. Now, if you do not, good morning, beautiful lady. Oh, well, good morning, Melissa. How are you? My daughter has arrived. Good morning, sweetheart. Mama has been fermenting. I made sauerkraut. My daughter loves sauerkraut and kielbasa with a little bit of brown sugar. She absolutely loves her sauerkraut. So this is a 1 gallon crock, and this one is made in Ohio. And I have everything in the box because we're going to be moving to the new property soon, and I don't want to get anything broken. It's so good to see you here, sweetheart. I've missed you. I'll try not to make too many bubbles in your ears here. Don't want to pop too much. But we're going to be moving to the new property, and I do not want to get my crock broken, so I have it packed in the box really good. And this is the 1 gallon. And it is stoneware. And it is absolutely beautiful. It is heavy. So if you wanted to make sauerkraut in something bigger, because if you watched my live stream last week, whenever I'm making it in this crock, the 1 gallon, there's not a whole lot of room. And I like this because, you know, it was just myself. So you don't have a whole lot of room here that you're working with. It is a very tall, very slender 1 gallon crock, and I absolutely love that. So if you wanted something where you had more room, this is another example of a 1 gallon crock. Now this 1 gallon crock, let me do it this way. This 1 gallon crock comes with all of the above. You get the crock. You get your pounder to pound your cabbage down in and pack it, the wooden pounder, and you get the two porcelain weights to put in and weigh your cabbage down so it can start fermenting to turn it into sauerkraut. So that all comes in this kit. So now this one comes with the crock, which is an absolutely beautiful crock. And you can see you got all kinds of room to work. It comes with the crock. Whoops, it comes with the lid. Sorry about that. A beautiful lid. And it comes with the weights. Now these are not porcelain. They're more like a sand type. They're gritty. And it does come with the set of weights. And it says, if I put it together, it says Stoneware, Ohio, Zanesville, 1 gallon, USA. So this is everything that comes with this 1 gallon kit. So what I did was I purchased a small, inexpensive pounder. It's not that expensive. And it is wooden. And it's a very nice little pounder, so you can purchase a pounder separately to pack your cabbage down in. And one this size works really good. So when I store this set, it's not taking up a whole lot of room, and I normally store my crock in the box, and then I store my wooden pounder in its box, and this one will give you more room if you want to be able to get your hand down in there and work better, and then be able to move around better to press down your cabbage. This is an ideal crock for a small family. It's the 1 gallon. So this is just a few different ideas that I wanted to share with you. You know, some of the different things that you can ferment and how you can ferment. And it doesn't take a whole lot, and you have sauerkraut. All I needed was my cabbage, salt, and water. And here is my absolutely beautiful sauerkraut 7 days later. And that was done, of course, in the tall 1 gallon crock. So I wanted to come on today and show some different things that you can ferment. Cucumbers, cabbage. The cabbage became my sauerkraut. My cucumbers became my beautiful pickles. Or no, this is the zucchini. I'm sorry. This is the zucchini, rosemary, onions, and garlic. And this is my pickles, which is cucumbers. Oh, and I had a little bit of black peppercorns in that. And this is cucumbers, onions, fresh garlic, and pickling spice. And it almost tastes like bread and butter pickles with just a hint of garlic. So I just wanted to show you those. And then, of course, the sourdough starter that we started from scratch. And you can see all those bubbles. Sorry, I have puppies. You may hear them in the background. This is very active. This is the starter that we started from scratch. And it's an absolutely, absolutely beautiful starter. You can see all those bubbles. It's very active. And this is what I'll need to make my sourdough bread, or cinnamon rolls, or biscuits, or pancakes. And this is a natural yeast that all I needed was flour and water. And I had to have unbleached flour and no chlorine in my water. And just put one. It started off last week with a pint jar, an empty pint jar. Added 1/4 cup of flour and 1/4 cup of bottled water. Stirred that up really well. And today's 11 days later, or 8 days later. And yesterday would have been 7 days. And look at that absolutely beautiful starter, started from scratch. So if you go back last week, from day 1 through day 5, I was working with the starter every day at the beginning, showing you what you do next. And I just wanted you to see, this is week 2. And this is the 2nd day of this week on this starter. And I'll just put it in the refrigerator. And then each day I would take out like 1/4 cup my starter. And then I would just put it in a container to discard, because it's not really strong enough yet to make sourdough bread. So I would just set that discard off to the side, and then I put one, since I took 1/4 cup out, remember, whatever you're taking out, you're going to be putting the same amount back in. So I took out 1/4 cup of my sourdough starter on Saturday. I did the same thing on Sunday and on Monday, and again this morning. Each morning, even after it was in the refrigerator, I would just take out 1/4 cup of my starter, put it in a discard container. I added back 1/4 cup of flour, and it has to be unbleached flour. It can be all-purpose flour or fresh milled flour. And I started mine off with fresh milled flour, white soft wheat berries is what I started with, because I was going to make banana bread. And you need the soft white wheat berry flour to make your fast breads if you're milling your own flour. So I took out the 1/4 cup of discard each day that it was in the refrigerator. I added 1/4 cup of water. I stirred it really good because you want to see those bubbles. Those bubbles is what helps it to ferment. And then I just let it sit on my counter with the lid loose so I could get plenty of air in there. And once that discard would raise and double, and I'd see all those bubbles, then I would just put it in the refrigerator. Do not close the lid tight. I would just set it back in the refrigerator, and I've done that each day up to today, and that's showing you. Now, I think this morning I took out 1/4, and then I decided to take it out double. So I took out 1/4 of my discard twice, and then I added in 1/4 flour twice, 1/4 water once, and then almost 1/4 water, because whenever I'm adding it back in, and I added that much flour, I didn't want to add completely equal on the water. I wanted to see where my starter dough was at. And then I stirred it up, and that was about 4 o'clock this morning. And as you've seen, I put my rubber band where my starter was at 4 o'clock this morning after adding that feeding, and it rose that much above my rubber band. So this is ready to go back in the refrigerator, and then I'll repeat that again tomorrow. Now tomorrow I'm going to start using the discard because I don't want to keep tossing it. And I've made pancakes already with some of my discard. And then tomorrow I'm going to make some blueberry waffles with some of my discard. And maybe we'll do that together on a live stream tomorrow. So that turned out absolutely amazing. I just wanted you to see where that's at and how that's doing. And that's the new sourdough starter from scratch. So I think that's everything. Again, the different types of fermenting. The sourdough is a natural fermenting into a natural yeast, so you can make sourdough bread, you can make biscuits, you can make cinnamon rolls, you can make multiple things with your sourdough. So that is one type of fermenting. We started on day 1 last week. Day 2 was fermenting using the 1-gallon crock and making sauerkraut with 2 small heads of cabbage. And this is I took this out of the crock yesterday, and I just packed it into the jar and then added some of the brine from the crock into it. And I got 3 pints out of those 2 small heads of cabbage. And then on day 2, I also did using this jar, which is another way of fermenting with no seal. It's about 1.5 gallons. And you want it to not have a seal. So if you're fermenting, you hear how loose that is? And I can also just walk by and pick it up. And I added my zucchini, fresh sliced zucchini, onions, fresh garlic cloves, and some black peppercorn, and some rosemary. And I just added my brine, and then when I got it up high enough that I knew my vegetables would be covered, I filled up a gallon bag with some water, a Ziploc baggie, put it in to hold that down, set it on my island, and about once a day I'd just walk over and just make sure that it burped, just to make sure that all those gases come out. So this 1.5 gallon jar made an absolutely wonderful fermenting jar. And out of those 2 small zucchinis, I got 1 beautiful pint of fermented vegetables. And they turned out beautiful. And then the next day, I had some salad cucumbers, because you either want the salad cucumbers or pickling cucumbers, the ones with the little bumps on them. I sliced them and put them in a quart jar. Of course, it was a wide mouth, not a regular mouth. And I layered them with, I had cucumbers, I think two or three cucumbers, onions, and fresh garlic cloves, and pickling spice in my brine. I added them in layers, and then added my brine, and then put a small sandwich baggie, Ziploc sandwich baggie in this, and that pressed down on my vegetables, my cucumbers, to keep them in the liquid. I put the jar lid on very loose so it could bounce up and down. Put this on my island, and whenever I came through to burp my other vegetable, I just opened the jar, make sure it was burping, that there was no extra gases built up, set it back on the island. And the zucchini and the pickles were both completed in 5 days. So I moved this over to this pint jar on day 5. And then here's the cucumbers that I did, and they turned out absolutely beautiful. And I took them out and put them in the refrigerator also on day 5. And just added a little bit of the brine to make sure everything was covered. And the same thing with the sauerkraut. I packed it down in there really good, and then I added some of the brine that we made, and it turned out absolutely amazing. So I ended up getting 3 pints of the sauerkraut out of the 2 heads of cabbage. Beautiful sauerkraut. And it smells and tastes amazing. And it took 7 days in the 1-gallon crock. And it turned out absolutely amazing. And to have your own fresh sauerkraut. And you know this is a probiotic. It's good for you. It's good for your body. If you eat just a little bit of sauerkraut, or either one of these fermented vegetables, it has a natural probiotic because you're fermenting it, and that probiotic is going to help balance out your good and your bad bacteria in your body, in your gut. And if you like sauerkraut, you can just go take out a little bit, take a few bites, and you're giving your body a natural probiotic that naturally fermented, and it's going to help you keep a more healthy gut. And I think that you'll really enjoy it. It's easy. There's not a whole lot to it. And if you go back to my lives last week, Monday through Friday, that was all about the different fermenting that I did, how I did it, the process that I used to do that. But make sure anytime that when you're preserving, if you're fermenting or preserving, no matter what you're doing, whether it be vegetables or sauerkraut, and you're fermenting, or if you're preserving your own home preserves, whether it be meat or vegetables or fruits or jams and jellies, always follow the USDA guidelines, and make sure that you're doing everything safe, that you're going to be safe, your family's going to be safe, you're not going to make anybody sick. So always follow the USDA guidelines. And it's really fun to go into your kitchen, try new things, learn new things. And these are nice and healthy for you. Instead of going to the store and buying a probiotic, this is a natural probiotic. So if you've had a cold or a flu and you're not feeling well, instead of taking a store-bought probiotic, these have natural probiotics in them, and they will help to balance back out your good and bad bacteria and give you a good healthy gut. So anyway, I thought I would share that with you today. And then the 2 different crocks. This one is the 1 gallon, and it is a tall, slender crock. And the lid has natural grooves for letting air come through. the rim, if you can see that, has a real deep well. So once you get set your cabbage down in layers, you use this and you pack everything down in, try and get as much moisture out each layer, and keep layering, keep packing using your packer. And then it comes with the weights. It has 2 of the weights that you would put down in your jar after you get everything packed and weigh down your cabbage. And then you would make sure you cover not only your cabbage, but also your weights. And just set this on the counter. And whenever I set it on the counter, this little rim is for putting water in it. So once you get it all ready and get your lid on, you're going to add water, and that will keep a natural seal. And the air pockets cut into the lid will help it to burp naturally. And nothing can get down into your crock while you're fermenting and making your sauerkraut. So that's the one that we used last week, and that is a tall, slender, 1 gallon. And then today I was showing you a different type of crock, and this is also a 1 gallon. So if you need more room to get down in there and work, because that one is limited on how much room you have to work with. This is an example of a 1 gallon, and I got this one at the Ohio Stoneware from Zanesville, Ohio. This is the 1 gallon, and it comes with the Crock, and it comes with a nice lid. And it also comes with the 2 stones, but these are not porcelain. These are more of a gritty, almost like a clay. And they say Ohio Stoneware, Zanesville, Ohio, made in the USA. So that's what comes with that kit. It does not come with your pounder. So I just picked up a small wooden pounder that I know will be perfect for the size whenever I'm working with this particular crock. And this is a very, very nice, inexpensive little pounder that you could use as well. Now, it does not come with the crock. And that one is called the Kraut Crusher. And it's, I'm trying to see what wood is this one. I'm trying to see what wood. It's not telling me there. But it does say whenever you're washing either one of these wooden pounders, this one doesn't only use soap and water. Make sure you rinse it, let it dry really, really well. Same thing with this one. Now, if you can see, this one looks like it's more smooth, and stained, and almost looks like it has an oil finish. This one does require, once it's washed and dried, that you take a little bit of olive oil and, just put a little bit of olive oil on it to preserve it, to keep it from cracking or splitting. You can do the same thing to this pounder that came with the other kit. So that's 2 different pounders that you can choose from. Of course, this one comes with the kit. And they have multiple pounders out there that you could choose from. So, whatever. I like this one because I can hold it very nice. This is my bottom, so I can hold it very nice whenever I'm putting my sauerkraut or my cabbage down in. I can hold on to it and press. And I like the small 1 gallon because my husband does not eat the sauerkraut, and we only have a small family, myself and my husband. So the 1 gallon crock is absolutely beautiful. It's perfect for me and my family. And then you can also use the other types of fermenting jars. a quart jar or a gallon and a half or a gallon jar, you know, depending on what size you're making. Make sure it does not have a seal. You do not want all of those gases to build up in there and have no way to escape. And then just make sure that, you know, it's nice and loose. You may want to walk by and burp it. Make your own fermented vegetables. Make your own sauerkraut. It's absolutely beautiful. Took 7 days in the crock. Make your own fermented vegetables. That took 5 days in that half-gallon jar that I just held up. And make your own cucumbers. And that took 5 days. Both of my cucumbers and my zucchini vegetables took 5 days. So, I just thought I'd come on and show you. Amazing. You know, I finished the week. I took them out and just set all these in the refrigerator. I got 1 pint of the vegetables, 1 pint of the cucumbers, and 3 pints of the sauerkraut from the 2 heads of cabbage that we did together last week. So, that's all I have today. And then again, I showed you the sourdough starter, and you can see that on my thumbnail as well, all the bubbles in that tall jar. So, I just moved everything over to pints. I've set it in the refrigerator, and then I can just go in and take a little bit out, eat a little bit. I know that I'm giving my body fresh fermented vegetables that were done safely, that followed the USA guidelines. I'm giving my body a natural probiotic. I'm balancing out my good and bad bacteria to try and keep a healthy gut and stay healthy. But again, following the USDA guidelines. Always follow the guidelines. So anyway, that's all I have today. I hope that wasn't too overwhelming. I hope I didn't repeat myself too much. So this is just part 2, I guess you would call it, from last week. Last week was all about fermenting. Each day I was starting something and we were doing a fermenting. And then this is the finished product, what it looks like, how long it took, and how I'm storing the finished product. So that's all I have today, everyone. I hope that was informative. I hope you enjoyed that. And go in your kitchen, enjoy your kitchen, have fun. Kitty has found the post, so I'm moving. Enjoy your kitchen, have fun, and never be afraid to try new things, you know. Always be safe, you know, no matter what you're doing. You know, follow USDA guidelines. If you're fermenting and you're not sure about, you know, your salt and your water ratio, you can Google it. It'll tell you if you're, you know, what you're making, if you're making sauerkraut. Now, my crock did come with a small mine came with a guide that gave me my weight of my sauerkraut to the ratio of salt, how much salt I needed. And that crock is a Kenley, Kenley fermenting jar. And that is 1 gallon. And that's the tall, slender one. And then this one is the 1 gallon. And this one is from Ohio Stoneware in Zanesville, Ohio. And it does not come with the pounder. It does come with the crock, the weights, and the lid. This is a very nice crock. It's also a 1 gallon. So always, you know, check your USDA guidelines and follow them. Keep yourself safe, your family safe, you know, If you're not sure, Google it. Whenever I was doing my pickles, my cucumbers into pickles, all I did was Google and ask, you know, for 2 cups of water, and you don't want to use anything with iodine, and no chlorine when you're fermenting. You want to use a canning salt or a kosher salt, nothing with iodine, and no water with chlorine. You want to use filtered water, or if you use bottled water, just make sure there's no chlorine in it. And what I did was Google for 2 cups of water, what was my ratio of salt to water to make a correct brine for my fermenting my cucumbers and fermenting my vegetables. And on Google it said 1 tablespoon of salt to 2 cups of water. So always follow the proper guidelines. Keep yourself safe, your family safe, and enjoy your kitchen. Go in and have fun. Never be afraid to try new things safely. Again, safely. And I'm learning every day. We're never too old or too young to learn something new. So go into your kitchen. Enjoy your kitchen. Have fun. Experiment, but do it safely and do it correctly, and stay safe. So I hope that was informative. I hope you enjoyed that. And again, the crock did not, the 1 gallon stone crock did not come with the paddle, and this is called, the one I just picked up is called the Kraut Crusher. And this is your pounding side and your handle. So you would have to purchase this separate if you purchase the 1 gallon crock like I purchased. So I think that is everything I had today, except for the sourdough starter, which was also part of our fermenting week last week, starting the sourdough. And you can see that is absolutely beautiful. And this is only my 2nd week, day 2, with the new sourdough starter. So all that's on my fermenting week, all about fermenting last week. And each day I had sourdough starter day 1, which was on Monday. And then you'll see sourdough starter 2, 3, 4, 5 on each day. And then up to 5. And after we got done with it, we put it in the refrigerator on day 5. So, that's all I have, and I've been on here a little over an hour, and so I'm going to go ahead and hop off of here and get my day started, get some laundry done. I hope you enjoyed that. My grandmother always made sauerkraut in a great big huge crock, and I just absolutely loved it, you know. And then she would not only make her sauerkraut in a large crock, but the little tiny fall apples that would come on, she would add those to her cabbage as she was packing her cabbage. And she would always let us know that it was time to take the sauerkraut out of the crock. And all of our children, all of her grandchildren just absolutely loved the little tiny sauerkraut apples. She called them kraut apples. So we would all show up, and she would open the crock, and as she was taking out her sauerkraut, we were all in a line waiting to get our little sauerkraut, our kraut apple. So that was a tradition that she passed on to me, you know, how to ferment and how to do it properly. And it's something that I thought I would like to pass on to my daughter and my grandchildren and my great-grandchildren. So I am a mom, and I am a grandmother, and I'm now also a great-grandmother. And I also thought I would share it with you here on YouTube. So these are just safe ways of fermenting and how to do it. And it's easier to say I can't than it is to say I won't try. You know, always try. If you fail, go back and do it again. You know, it's all about try. It's all about trying and attempting, and then finally getting the absolutely beautiful product that you're looking for. So that's why I'm doing the fermenting. My husband loves sourdough, and I have not had a sourdough starter for a long time, so I thought I would just start off last week and we would make a sourdough starter together, and then actually bake the first sourdough bread loaf together. That will probably be next week. So anyway, I want to thank everybody for stopping in. If you haven't, please like and subscribe if you like this type of video. And I also went over the bread making and bread baking, and that's one of my lives last week, and I did show you some of the different tools that you'll need, whether you be just baking your regular sandwich bread at home, or the things that you're really going to need if you start to bake sourdough bread. So you'll see that on one of my lives as well. And I had one large kit that I did not open yet because I didn't want to overwhelm everyone last week. So we went through one or two different kits on bread making, and then a really nice bread making or bread baking for beginners book. It's on my thumbnail. You'll see that. And when we actually get ready to start baking our sourdough bread, I'll bring out the large kit, and we'll open it up and go through it. It has a lot more stuff in it, a lot more different tools in it, but I didn't want to overwhelm last week, so I showed some different things and how you could use them. What you're going to need if you're going to be making bread and baking bread, because you have your sandwich bread, and that's made with just your flour and, you know, all of your ingredients, and then you have sourdough. Sourdough is a complete different type of baking and bread, and the different tools that you'll need for it. So I broke that up last week on one of my lives. So if you haven't, go back and watch that. And then I'll bring out the large box. Which is a complete kit. And we did not go over this one last week. But this is one complete kit of everything that you're going to need. Some of the tools that you really will need for making sourdough bread. So we'll go ahead and open this one, and we'll cover all the different things in this kit one day this week maybe. And then this was the book that was on my live stream the other day, and it's bread baking for beginners. And this is by Bonnie O'Hara, and that will be the thumbnail. You'll see this book in the thumbnail, and that was all the different things I went over. You know, what do you need for baking bread? What tools do you need? So I did cover that last week, and I hope that was informative. And I believe that this new kit also comes with a small book for making sourdough. So this one has all types of bread, including sourdough. And then the big kit that I'll be opening later this week and showing you everything in it also has a cookbook for sourdough bread. So that's everything I've got. And I want to go ahead and hop off of here, enjoy my coffee. I'm going to sit down and relax my leg and foot a little bit, and I try to stay on here between an hour and a half because of my bad leg and foot. So I'm going to hop off of here. I'm going to enjoy some coffee. And I'm going to get my day started. So bye-bye, everyone. Thank you for stopping in. I want to always thank you for your kindness and patience. You guys are just absolutely amazing. You're so kind and so patient. So I'll catch you the next time. Enjoy your day. Enjoy your kitchen. You're never too old or too young to learn how to do new things in your kitchen and enjoy your kitchen. So bye-bye. See you next time. Enjoy your Tuesday. Bye-bye, everyone.